Hi YouTube, this is Andrea, and I am going to be actually doing a Ancestry DNA reveal and review. I just thought that this was fitting for this to be my first video of 2018. I wanted to do something a little different this year because this is, I'm not going to say my age, but this is a milestone year that I'm going to be turning a certain particular age. And this is something that I always wanted to do. I know a lot of YouTube videos, people get into the, well, the reason why they did the video or wanted to do their research for their Ancestry.com, pretty much mine is similar. I think it's important, especially when you're African American. I think it's very important to know specifically where you come from or your ancestors come from. And this was a question that I always would ask my mother or my great-grandmother when she was alive. I would always ask them, like, okay, you guys, where did we come from? What are we made of? What's in our genetic code? And I would always get like a response like, oh, you know, we're from Mississippi, we're from the South, or you got people that's from Georgia, or you got people that's from Virginia. And it's like, okay, that's still, it still wasn't satisfying my need to know exactly what, you know, what my DNA was made up of. So I went ahead and I did AncestryDNA.com. The reason why I went with them is because they were having, I'm gonna be honest, they were having a sale around Valentine's Day, and I thought that that was a great opportunity for me to go ahead and get the test. And in addition, I like the fact that they have their information as far as your DNA broken down to the specific nation. Just like I think the 23 DNA test, it was the same procedure with Ancestry, where, you know, you had a tube that you got to spit in, and you send that tube back and they got to analyze it, and it takes about, according to them, 6 to 8 weeks. I actually got mine back pretty fast. I sent mine off February 22nd or 23rd, and I got an email from Ancestry stating that they received it on the 28th of February. And it took them, I want to say, just probably a little bit over a month. I got my results back. So without further ado, I have my computer, my laptop pulled up here, and I am going to make sure that I pull up everything, because I actually already looked at my results. I'm not gonna be one of these people that's like, oh, I'm going into the computer for the first time and giving you a first time reveal. I already looked into the results, and I'm gonna say this, it's some of the stuff is, some of it was kind of predicted. I'm not gonna say expected, but it was predicted. Some of it was a little bit of a shock or a surprise. So I mean, I know majority of my DNA is obviously of African origin, but there's other things in me that I had no idea that I was made up of. And I think it's on one hand, it's a bit of a surprise with one particular percentage of me, and on the other hand, it's really not. And when I get to that, I'll explain why I think it's really not too much of a surprise. But without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and start breaking down the percentages. The very first percentage, which is my highest percentage, is Nigeria. I have 36% Nigerian in me. Now, this was a little bit of a shock because my mom and me didn't think that there was a high percentage of Nigeria. We were assuming probably Ghana or Senegal as kind of being the higher percentages as far as the African side of us. But it's saying Nigeria, 36%. And I'm proud of that, because a lot of Nigerians, they're super smart, they're highly educated. A lot of them that I went to school with, or just known, just growing up, or just being in the workforce, they're highly educated. They either speak like 2 or 3 different languages. Most of them have like master's degrees, they're PhDs, or they're working on higher level degrees, and a lot of them are doctors. So I'm proud of that. So I'm I'm like, okay, you know, like I said, I wasn't expecting that, but I'm proud of it. The second percentage is 19%, and that's been in Togo. I don't know too much about that culture, but pretty much since I've done the DNA Ancestry, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna kind of look up everything that I'm made up of. I want to research it. I want to look up the customs. I really want to embrace everything that I'm made up of. Okay, the Ivory Coast, Ghana did show up in my DNA, and that came in at 11%. And then I have Cameroon, Congo, which is coming in at 10%. And then I have the African South Central Hunters Gatherers, which is showing, let's see, South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and Congo. So I do have some, I do come, I guess, from a percentage of African nations that are more centered. So I'm like, okay, all right. And the Senegal did show up. It's coming up under my low confidence regions. It's coming up at 6%. Now this was a little, like I said, me and my mom thought that we were the Ghana, Ivory Coast, Ghana, and the Senegal. And the reason why we were feeling this strongly was because we actually did look up some of the nations on YouTube and pictures, and we were looking at the pictures and the features and everything, and we were going off of that because we really was just doing a guesstimation, and we were kind of like, okay, well, it looked like we might be leaning a little bit more towards this particular culture or this particular African nation. So we, in a sense, we were right about the Ghana and Senegal, but we didn't know about the other African nations that I was made up of. Now we're going into the territory now of this one here kind of like shocked me, but it kind of didn't. I'm 5% Scandinavian, and I thought that this was kind of like, wow, you know, this was unexpected. But my last name is not atypical, the typical African American black name. It's not Smith, it's not Johnson, it's not Washington, it's not House. It is literally not the typical African American name you see. The name on Ancestry.com is stating that its origin is from England. However, I looked up my name a long time ago because I used to always get asked by teachers, people, like when I would apply for jobs, and people would be like, oh, that's, you know, your name is pretty different. Like that's not the, you know, and I always would know what they were, you know, meaning, like, okay, this is not a typical African American name. But I looked up my last name a long time ago, and it had said that the origin was from Norway. It was a Norwegian last name, surname. And I now that I have done this test, now it's making me say, okay, wait a minute, you know, there's more of a connection here with your last name, and now you have Scandinavian DNA in you. So I always thought, you know, given the history of America, you know, in back in the slavery times, especially when they had abolished slavery, a lot of the slaves took their masters' surnames. So I had just assumed that my last name was just, you know, being taken as, you know, the surname, because that's what they were doing back in the day. So to see that there's a connection now with this Norwegian Scandinavian name, and I have the DNA in me, it's kind of like, now I'm like, okay, there is a connection. And when I looked up the name, like I said, the name is originally from Norway. It's a Norwegian name, and I saw that the specific surname, I guess the family or the group of family members had actually migrated. I had did some research. They actually had migrated over to England. So I'm thinking Ancestry.com is thinking that, okay, well, they're showing this last name being of English nature, but it's really the origin is from the Scandinavian country, Norway. So, and another thing about the Scandinavian thing, I'm not gonna lie, I've always felt a connection to those countries. I've always been known to go on YouTube, and I've followed the royal families of those nations. I've recently, like, I know Queen Margarita, her husband passed away, and the country held his funeral. But the thing about it is, the Swedish royal family and the Norwegian royal family, like, I will always go online and I looked up all their weddings and watched all their weddings and their announcements when they were pregnant, like Crown Prince Victoria, I followed her. From Sweden, I followed her, and also Princess Mary from Denmark, and Crown Princess Mary from Denmark, and Queen Margarita, and a little bit of the Netherlands too, but specifically Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. Those were like, I followed those royal families and looked up a little bit of the culture, and actually Swedish is one of the places I would love to visit. So it's kind of like, I guess now I know it's kind of like in the DNA. Now my next 5% is stating that I am of Ireland, Scottish, and Wales. Now the Scottish part, I've always had a connection with that because I've always loved the bagpipes. I've always loved their I like the Disney cartoon Brave with the little redhead princess. anything to do with the Scottish, I've always liked it. I was always attracted to it. So I'm kind of like surprised by it, but at the same time I've always had this feeling a connection with them. Now Ireland and Wales, that's something that's like, well, okay, but I'm just assuming that that was what part of that made up part of that particular ancestor. But definitely I can see a connection with Scotland. Let's see, now it's saying that I am 1% African Southeastern Bantu, and that is consisting of South Africa, Kenya, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Angola, Uganda, Tanzania. So I guess I'm a little more, 1%, a little bit more further east of Africa. So you got the Central Africa, and then you got a little bit towards east. So I guess I had an ancestor that was from that particular part of the region. And let's see, this part here kind of surprised me a little bit. We've always assumed or thought that we had Native American blood in us, and I absolutely have zero. I don't have it. Maybe other people in the family might have it through, through marriages. Like my cousins may have more of a percentage of Native American, because some of us do kind of look like we could have Native American in us. I just know that it's not showing up under my DNA. But I have 2% Asian blood, which kind of surprised me a little bit, because I was like, I wasn't expecting that. And the 2% is from Asian South, and that is from India, Pakistan, it's a Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. So I guess I'm gonna tell you a quick little story. Back when I was like, I want to say 19 or 20 years old, I used to always love going to like they had like these little flea markets, like places where you can go and buy like different, it could be either African gowns, Indian gowns, the jewelry. I used to love like dressing up in like other cultures dresses and clothing, and I used to always get looks from like, I'm gonna be honest, from like Arab men, African men, and Indian men. And I remember one time I was in Walgreens, and like I said, I was 20 years old. I had my hair pulled back, it was part down the middle, had a bun in the back, and I had on like this red Indian, it was like an Indian dress, like the sleeves, my arms was covered, and it was very intricate. The design and everything was very intricate. And this young Indian guy, literally, he was following me around the store. And I guess he had finally, and I kind of could tell from the side corner of my eye, I'm like, okay, is he like stalking me? What's going on? You know, and I'm trying to shop in Walgreens, and he finally just worked up the nerve to come up to me, and he was like, hi, how are you? He told me his name, and I could tell just from how he was dressed, his name and everything, he was Indian, from like India. And so he was like asking me what my name was. I told him my name, and then he was like, you know, okay, who's your father? What's your last name? And I told him my last name, and like I said before, my last name is of Scandinavian nature, is Norwegian. And he kind of looked a little like, okay, that's different. I think he was assuming that I was Indian, because he had to ask me. He was like, you're not Indian? And I was like, no, I'm African American. And he was like, oh my God, like he couldn't believe it, like, because he's like, okay, your hair is part down the middle, it's in a bun, you got this Indian type of dress on, it's red, you know, you're looking kind of Indian to me, and you're not. So that was like kind of like maybe an impression that it left me like, oh, okay, well, maybe I got something showing up in my DNA, you know. So now, some odd years later, doing this DNA test, and it's like, okay, so whatever he was picking up in my features, or whatever he was picking up in me, he saw the 2% India that's in me. So to go figure. So pretty much I always liked the Indian culture. I love their jewelry, their dresses, the way that they have their weddings, I always liked their henna art, and I always wanted to get like a henna art tattoo, but I always was like, well, that's not my culture, and if I get that, then, you know, am I appropriating another culture's, you know, culture? And I kind of always would talk myself out of it. But since I found out about my results, I actually went to an Indian salon, and I talked to one of the ladies, and she's like more than happy. She's like, I'll do your henna art for you. And so I'm gonna actually get my first henna art done. I'm gonna try to get something, at least I think I want to get it on my arm, that way I can at least enjoy it before I have to go back to nursing school. But I definitely am planning on, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do a video vlog on it, just so you guys can see. I'm gonna post it on my YouTube channel. But I think that's pretty cool. And she was really nice. She was like, anybody can get the henna tattoo, we don't care if you're, but she was just like, I'll be happy to do your first henna tattoo. So I'm planning on getting that. Now the rest of me is a combination of, let's see, the rest of me is, okay, less than 1% Europe South, which consists of Italy and Greece. I think that this was pretty neat because I've always wanted to go to Greece. Now, if you were to ask me, okay, what's your number one place where you want to go? I always wanted to go to Greece. Never knew why. A lot of people are like, okay, Greece, why would you want to go to Greece? I love Greek food. I love my big fat Greek wedding. I love anything Greek. I just love the culture, and I will always go online and just look at different pictures and stuff. So it's funny that Okay, Greece is my number one place. Sweden is the second place I would like to visit. I would say the third place I would like to visit is actually Iceland. I think that that would be an interesting trip. And then the fourth will probably be somewhere in Antarctica. I know they have like those cruises where it can kind of get you close to the glaciers, but I would love to like visit those places because they're different to me, and it's kind of out the box, and it's like a different part of the world that I want to experience just to see it. Now that I know specifically where I'm from as far as my African countries, definitely I would love to visit maybe Nigeria, and probably I want to say South Africa is a place I would like to visit. As far as the rest of me, I think I have one more, and it's less than 1% Mali. So in a nutshell, that's what I'm made up of. And another mention here, as far as below everything that I'm made of, it states as far as migrations, it states that because of like I guess the Nigerian, the Ghana, the Benin Togo, and the Cameroon, is saying that I guess my ancestors were a part of that migration, which is really the slave trade, where it was more so Virginia and southern states. However, it does, I want to make a distinction because I know that some African Americans were also part of the Louisiana. Some of them were called Creole because they were mixed with French and other Caucasian cultures, and Spanish, Native American. My ancestors were not from the bulk of it. It looks like it's saying that I wasn't a part of that, so I'm not in that Louisiana Creole type of migration there, but it definitely they were a part of the slave trade. Now, obviously, having Irish, Scottish, Wales, and Scandinavian blood, you know, me as a African American person and a woman, you know, the first thing you're thinking is, oh my God, you know, is slavery. There was inappropriate behavior going on. I would like or love to think that a Viking prince fell in love with a Nigerian queen. But I also like to think it and look at it in this perspective too. Sometimes, you know, love finds a way, and people do fall in love from various backgrounds and cultures, and just sometimes you're in a, depending on when you were born, or depending on where you live at, it's kind of like circumstances can you can have a love affair, you can fall in love, but because of the times and the behavior and the attitudes of that time, it's almost like the people couldn't be together the way that they wanted to be. I always say love finds a way, even in some of the worstest circumstances. But yeah, so I'm just hoping that for my ancestors, I'm hoping that was the case, that they loved each other, but they couldn't be together because of all what was going on at that time frame. But I'm glad that I did this. I think I'm gonna encourage more family members to do this. I know me and my mom was trying to get other aunts to do it. I definitely want to get my sister to do hers, because like it stated, I can have a certain percentage of the Nigerian, like I'm the highest is 36% for me for Nigeria, but my sister could be at 10% Nigerian, but she can be like 36% Ivory Coast, Ghana. So I'm definitely going to see about getting more family members to get checked out, and to see, you know, I think everybody needs to know this. I think it's a beautiful thing. It lets you know that unless you're in a very remote part of the world, or a very remote tribe or whatever, it's more likely you're going to be a combination or collaboration of different nations and different tribes. We're not going to be a one purebred of anything. So I like the fact that I have multiple African nations within me. I think I like that. That's pretty cool. And even the other surprises, I like the fact that, okay, well, now I kind of understand why I have this connection with Scandinavians as far as my surname, and also as far as my desire wanting to know about those cultures, and even Scotland too. So I'm like, okay, I'm okay with this. Another thing that I like about Ancestry.com, I just want to point this out, is that they also link you up to other people that could be like your second, third, or fourth, or even sometimes first cousins. And then they also give you your distant cousins, like anybody between the 5th and the 8th, I guess, a 5th through 8th cousins. I mean, they give you like an extensive number of people that they can connect you with. You can email them. I've already had one person email me, and she's like, you know, I'm contacting you because you're showing up as a very high confidence as far as us being related, as far as us being third or fourth or second cousins. And then she is she's working with another person on Ancestry.com that has over 200 people in her family tree. And so she's like, you also have a high connection with this person that I'm working with. They're currently working together, and I guess she wants me to join in their little circle to see how we could all be related. So I've already did a family tree, but it's specifically on my mother's side of the family. We were actually able to go all the way back to 1855 with my mother's side of the family. I'm trying to get something together for my father's side of the family, because I really believe, I'm gonna make this assumption, I really believe that the connection with the surname and the Scandinavian DNA showing up, obviously I feel like I got it from his side of the family. So I want to do a little bit more research as far as my father's side of the family. But I'm just I'm glad that we were able to finally know, well, me personally, but even my mom, she was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a DNA test too. So we already sent her stuff out, so we're waiting on her DNA results to come back, and hopefully it shouldn't take no more than 4 weeks, I'm hoping. And we're gonna actually do a follow-up video to my video. So that's it. If you like my video, please hit the thumbs up button, and also I would love for you guys to subscribe to me. I know I haven't been posting too many videos, but that's due to the fact that I'm in school, nursing school, and then also the fact that I got sick and I had to have surgery. So I had planned on a ton of videos, but it was a lot going on with me. But for 2018, this was the first video that I actually wanted to post for 2018. Now that I have this posted, I'm looking forward to doing other videos. So please subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.